the second stop of the 2020 FLW Pro Circuit season, we are at the Harris Chain of Lakes in Central Florida. This is a pretty special fishery because there are 10 different lakes on this chain, and each one is very, very unique. Each one has a lot of different types of cover, a lot of types of different vegetation, everything from a variety of emergent vegetation such as lily pads, reeds, kissimmee grass, to submerged vegetation such as hydrilla, as well as some hard cover such as docks, cypress trees. There's just so much fish holding structure on the Harris chain, which makes it pretty overwhelming. Now, the one thing that I really had a hard time with during practice was figuring out which lake on the chain I wanted to focus on, or lakes. You can fish multiple lakes, obviously, on this chain. And I was bouncing around from one lake to the next and really couldn't figure out where I wanted to be. I fished both offshore as well as shallow cover, and I found that there were fish in all three phases of the spawn, which means that it was pretty much wide open. You could figure out exactly what you wanted to fish. And so I decided to go ahead and focus on the type of cover that I really feel comfortable fishing, and utilizing flipping and pitching tactics. And one major factor that I really was paying attention to was the weather trends coming during the tournament. We had a major cold front slated to arrive the second day of the event, which was going to change everything. And so my goal was to find an area that was resistant to that weather trend, to that cold front, and find an area that those fish weren't going to be able to move far. So I decided on a canal system near Lake Apopka. It had great emergent vegetation, had all the right ingredients. It had spawning fish while the weather was warm, but I knew that I could make adjustments as the tournament went on. The only factor that I was worried about was fishing pressure. That was something that canal system couldn't handle, but it was weather resistant. So that's where I decided to start my tournament.
Pro Circuit event here on the Harris chain. Man, I really don't know what to expect. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. In every single event, you never know what to expect on once the tournament day starts. But practice was really, really spread out for me this week, and so I'm just hoping that I can really just get into the groove, focus what's in front of me, and when that's not working, make good decisions after that. Because decision making is 100% of what makes a good or bad tournament. And so that's what I want to be able to do. Be very fluid out there, fish the moment, fish my gut, and not let anything get me down.
go. Number 1, Hayabusa hook. Got him good. 2-pounder. That's a good thing. Getting it started. That palmetto bugs paired with that Hayabusa offset heavy duty hook. It's pretty legit. It's good. It's not a giant. 2-pounder is, you know, decent start for sure. Here he is. Big one. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. Whew. You're going in the big side, brother. 5-pounder. 5-pounder. Oh, that's a good one. That was a good one. That's why we made this long run. Oh my goodness. I almost didn't catch that fish. I actually, constructive criticism, I pulled way too hard on that fish when he got stuck in the reeds, but we got him in the boat. That is all that matters. Whew, that fires me up. 916 got 2 fish and one's a pig. It's good. It's very good. Here's a good one. Number 3. Another 2-pounder. It makes about 9 pounds with 3 fish. Okay. We're not going to cut any corners today. Got 3 by 930. That's good. Got a nice fresh palmetto bugs. Got a retie. Man, my equipment is just phenomenal for this tactic. You know, I've talked about the palmetto bugs. I'm using the palmetto bugs and California craw, a heavy wire offset shank wide gap Hayabusa hook, a Fitzgerald 3/8 ounce weight pegged to the line, and of course 65-pound test braided line, and a Fitzgerald all-purpose 7/6 heavy flipping stick. This is like the ultimate setup for this. It's perfect. I love every bit of it. Just trying to go real slow, fish as much as I can, because you don't know how many people are going to have to go through this area throughout the day. And you don't want to miss anything, so they can get a shot at them. This California craw color seems to be working really, really well. They seem to like it. It's one of my favorite colors if I'm trying to imitate a bluegill or like a warmouth or shell cracker or something like that. There he is. Not a giant, another fish close to 2 pounds. But that's number 4, and that's close to 11 pounds right now. This is exactly why I chose this area. Not because it has better size quality fish, that's part of it, but the main reason is it's a spot that I think I can catch 5 fish. And the quality is definitely a huge factor, but it's really nice to be able to sit in one spot because on the Harris chain, if you are bouncing around, there he is. If you're bouncing around, that's a good one. That one's close to 3. That's what we're talking about. That one was on the bed for sure. But if you bounce around, you get too spun out on this chain, and you'll miss a lot. That's number 5. Got to find an area that you can slow down. You don't have to. You can run, have a milk run on this chain, but man, if you're not able to really keep your head clear and not be thinking about that next spot, every time you stop, it can be a long day of unproductive fishing. That fish made a huge difference. There he is. That's a good one. That's a good call. 2 3/4, fatty. There he is. That's a good one. That's a 3-pounder. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're looking good. We're looking good. Another call. Nice solid 3 1/4. Oh, that's a good one. Yes. Another 5. Another 5-pounder. Oh my gosh, I missed that one. Pitch right back in there. She was on the bed. She came back and hit it. Oh my gosh, that's a good one. What's up, Kai? Pretty good. I got about 18 pounds. I'll actually catch you one. I'm gonna fish this side. There he is. Oh. No. We're out of here now. We are out of here.
After catching this key kicker of the day, I estimated my weight to be around 22 or 23 pounds. And I knew if I kept on trying to catch fish in the canal, I would be wasting good quality fish that I need the next few days. So I decided to lock through and actually did something that I normally don't do in tournament fishing. I'm not much of a sight fisherman. I don't like sight fishing for fish. I'm just too impatient for that type of fishing. However, one of the best ways to ensure that I'm not just burning through good quality keepers that aren't helping me on this day, but might help me on further days down the road, is to sight fish for these fish. And so I decided to lock back through, and there was a canal system not far from the lock that I've actually had great success sight fishing for bass in the past when I've visited the Harris chain, and I knew the conditions were perfect. It was spring fed, well protected, and it was the perfect area for even somebody like me who's not a great sight fisherman to possibly get a kicker at the end of the day. And as it turns out, my gamble paid off. I ended up finding a fish that I estimated under the water was between 5 and 6 pounds. And it took me a while to actually get this fish fired up. It was paired up with a male, and they were both ignoring my baits. I was using several different presentations, tried the Z-Man palmetto bugs for a little bit, threw a wacky rigged worm in there, and then finally made the switch to a Z-Man boar hogs on 20-pound test Seagar red label fluorocarbon, and finally got that fish to bite on literally the second pitch with the boar hogs. And the fight was on, and it turned out to be a much bigger fish than I actually estimated it to be. It turned out to be a 7-pound, 11-ounce game changer. After catching that giant, it was time to head back to the Venetian Gardens for the FLW weigh-in. I knew I had a good bag of fish, but I wasn't sure exactly how big of a bag I really had, so I was eager to get back to weigh-in.
Another man that has caught one or two in the past couple years, man. Bring it on, Miles Berghoff. Holy smokes, out of Soddy Daisy, Tennessee. Second place by 2 ounces, 26 pounds, 8 ounces. What a day, Berghoff. Show some off and then we'll talk, buddy.
After catching a 26.5-pound bag the first day of the tournament, I was really excited to get back out to the canal and see what kind of potential it had, because up till that point, I wasn't sure what kind of potential it had for possibly winning the event. And now that I saw the kind of quality that it had, I was really excited for day 2. However, we got thrown a curveball. On Friday, which was supposed to be day 2, we were faced with extremely high wind situations, high gusts. It was unsafe boating conditions, and FLW decided to postpone day 2 to Saturday. So Friday, we just hung around the Lance camper, watched some TV. My wife flew down, and then on Saturday morning, that's when I got to get back out on the water. So locking through into the canal, obviously the conditions were way different. We have bright bluebird sunny skies, very, very cold weather. The water temperatures had dropped, and we've got quite a stiff breeze. So conditions were definitely not optimum for Florida fishing, but I knew as the day progressed, it was likely to get better and better. The one thing that I was concerned about locking through into the Apopka Canal was that after a 26.5-pound bag, you get a lot of attention, and I was likely to see a lot more boats and a lot more fishing pressure, which I knew was the Achilles heel of this canal.
Definitely dirtier.
Yeah. I've seen it super clear in here before.
There he is. Number one, he's not giant, but he's chunky. He's a chunky little one. Alright guys. Palmetto bugs. Still working. It's not the size we want. We had so much time. Number one.
Though I was able to catch a small keeper early, which I was pretty stoked about because it was my first time on FLW Live, things had obviously changed. The water conditions were very different. They were a little bit dirtier, and then it was also a lot colder. So it took a long time before I got my next bite. But once the water started to warm up, once that sun got higher in the sky and things started to heat up enough to where I needed to start taking off some layers, I knew that the bite was going to get a little bit better as time went on. But the one thing that I had worried about, of course, was the fishing pressure, and there was a lot more boats working the same stretches that I was working and had all to myself the first day.
That's a good one. That's a 5-pounder right there. See what I'm talking about with that Hayabusa hook? Hooks him right in the cheek. That's where you want them. Palmetto bugs, That elastic is so soft. Making some adjustments. Change the color, gamma bug color, heavier weight. I could tell that I made the right choice as far as weight, because the way that fish hit it, I did not pop it, nothing. Just pitched in there, hit it right on the head. That's what you get. There he is. Keeper number 3. Alright. One at a time. I'm not liking the smaller fish. I don't like those smaller fish. But I can keep catching those fish until I catch my limit, and then they gotta go. They gotta go. Adjustment here. I'm gonna increase the weight even more. I'm gonna go from 1/2 ounce or 5/8 ounce to a 3/4 ounce. Yep, there we go. Changing, making that adjustment, boy. That's a 4.5 pounder. That's the size we need right there. Switch to a 3/4 ounce. Made that adjustment. Got it.
After catching that key keeper, the bite didn't get better from there. I didn't end up catching another keeper in that area, and because of all the boat pressure, there was just too many guys fishing the same exact stretches that I had been fishing. I decided to lock back through and head back to some of the areas that I had found in practice on Lake Harris. I ended up fishing this one spot right outside of the Dead River through a Carolina rig, and ended up catching my final keeper of the day, a very, very small keeper, but a keeper nonetheless, and brought me up to a limit worth 12.5 pounds. This was not exactly the type of limit that I wanted for day 2, but it kept me in that top 5 in 4th place going into the final day.
Sitting in the top 5 right now, it couldn't get better than this. Jeremy.
After only catching 12.5 pounds the second day, and having so much boat pressure in that canal, and the water temperatures dropping on top of all that, I knew that the bite was going to be very, very tough. And one thing that I was very prepared for, though we had less pressure, I knew that the water temperatures were still in the low 60s, which means that those fish wouldn't reload into that cover until that water started to warm up. So soon after getting to the canal early in the morning, I decided to make a run to just kind of wing it on Lake Apopka. I ran into some areas that I'd never fished before, never seen before, and just tried to find some areas that might be, loaded with fish that haven't got any pressure throughout the week, and that didn't pan out. I wasted a lot of time fishing Lake Apopka, trying to find areas that the fish were loaded in. But what I found out about Lake Apopka is that it's not very easy to just go and wing it. It's hard to kind of get a feel for the lake and what kind of stretches the fish are holding on. It just didn't have a lot of really good water quality, so you really had to spend a lot of time and practice to figure out where the right stretches are. So that was a swing and a miss. So I ended up running back to my canal, but this was all part of the plan because the conditions were starting to get perfect for this canal again. I was waiting for those fish to reload with the high bluebird skies and the warmer weather. As soon as that sun started beating on those stretches, I knew it was starting to get right.
Finally, got a fish. All right, starting to bite.
You're on the board.
Starting to bite right there. I really do think that as the water warms up, these stretches are finally going to see some fresh fish. It's not a bad fish to start. There's fish. Oh, shoot, come off. Dang it. Haven't lost many fish this week. That one hurt because that was a 3-pounder. There we go. Big one! Big one! They're starting to get up shallow.
After losing a few key fish and only boating 3 fish in my primary canal, I made the gamble to go fish for sight fish like I did on day 1. I figured it was the only way for me to really start making a difference and be able to jump into that 20-pound range by targeting just giants. And the fish in my primary canal just were not reloading fast enough, so that move seemed to make sense as far as swinging for the fences. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. I only ended up catching a very small keeper with a wacky rig in my sight fishing canal and left there, and then finally caught my 5th fish while flipping in a different location on Beauclair, and that rounded out the day. Finished with a 12-pound, 7-ounce limit, which put me in 6th place, which obviously it wasn't where I wanted to be after starting the tournament in 2nd place. However, it was still a very good tournament. It was a terrible practice for me. I really didn't have too high of expectations in this event, so to finish in the top 10 is always a win. And it puts me in really good standing as far as Angler of the Year, sitting in 4th place now at this point in time. And so overall, it was a very good event. It was great to get back down to Florida. Harris Chain is a spectacular fishery and really, really enjoyed myself. And not only was a top 10 at the Harris Chain what made this event special, it was being able to share that experience with friends and family.
There on the water. But before I get off the stage, first off, I want to thank every single one of you. This is one of the best crowds I've seen at one of these FLW Pro Circuit events. Give yourself a round of applause. I love it here. And I also want to make sure that I give my family a huge shout out here, as well as my secondary family. We've got some friends in Mangolds. Thank you guys.
Let me tell you something. Your wife, I'm not a matchmaker, but the chemistry between you two, I love her already. I mean, she's always smiling, always happy. She celebrates your success with you, man. That's cool.
Oh, Katie's incredible. She's a rock star. She's the reason why I'm able to pull through some of these really tough tournaments. And so I love you, sweetie.
And every good man is a good woman. Let's hear it for Miles Sonar Berghoff. Payday.
Being able to share that top 10 moment with friends and family was really special, and to do it on a fishery that I have some history on was also really special. I just love the Harris chain. It's always a lot of fun to come to on the tournament trail, and I can't wait for the next time we come back. And so thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate your time, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you out on the water. FLW Pro Circuit Patterns is brought to you by BassBoatElectronics.com.